Open the meeting at 2 minutes past 5. First thing on the agenda is the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes?
Yeah, I gave Kerry a couple of changes when I came in. So she gave me the minute.
They're already in this one? The
Yeah,
changes?
he just mentioned them to me.
Okay.
All set.
You all set?
Make a motion to accept.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
No. Not for that.
Second thing on the agenda is to sign the warrants and what, have you signed those already?
Just doing the last one, I'll bring them right over the phone.
All right. Here, I'll pass it on. Wayne, next thing on the agenda is the PFAS testing for the, gonna be a Zoom call. What time is that?
Yeah, I told him 5:15. If I had known we got through this, I would have told him that, because it doesn't allow you the 15-minute increment, so.
Okay.
In the meantime, you could sign my vacation carryover request.
Yeah, we got to vote on that, don't we?
I don't know.
We did.
I think we already did
did
do
it
it
last
last
meeting.
week.
It was in
Yeah.
the, yeah.
Yeah,
We voted on that last week. So we'll skip over the next two things on here is the hiring, and that's supposed to be David Gagney and Denise is coming down to visit with us. So, old business here, the hay, the field of hay contract by Ramco. What happened with that?
I thought you were gonna check. I thought you said you'd know if it had been hayed. I've looked around, I haven't found him yet to ask him, is he walking away from it? What, you know, it would have been nice just to say, hey, I'm not doing it anymore, I lost
Right.
money. I do remember him saying in the first year he had lost money.
I stopped down there to see John Cruz the other day, and his barn, I forgot to look out back. I was right there. You should have asked John, John would know, but I forgot all about it. You didn't have to look out there to see if it was cut, did you?
No, I didn't.
You know what?
You know, I've gone by a few times, but from up on the road, it's tough to tell
No,
exactly.
exactly.
There's bales back there somewhere, but I don't know if they're new or not.
All right, well, I will make a point of it tomorrow to go by there and I'll talk to John. John will know.
Well, we'll text John and see if he's around, he can let us know now.
Hey, do you, Terry, did you talk to somebody at Ramco or anything?
No, I left numerous messages, but I never got a call back.
Okay. Update on the replacement well?
So on the replacement well, they're putting out the bids for flow testing. It will be bid with a pull down or a screw in casing.
There'll be a pull down or?
Yeah, or a screw in casing. I think he said screw in casing.
Really? I never seen the screw in case.
Yeah, it's not a driven casing. No.
Right.
Yeah.
Not hammered,
Right.
How does pull down work?
I have no idea, because you need enough force to you need a tremendous amount of weight to.
What they do is they start with a real big casing, and they have pulleys on the side, and then they put a casing on the inside, and that thing's, when they're lifting up on the cables, it slices down the steel cylinder slices down, say like 10 feet, and then they can't push it anymore with the cables. So then they take this shovel, it's a pipe with a flapper in it, and they drop it down inside, and they pull it
the
out,
soil out.
and it takes the water and the sand out, and they dump it. They open the flap and the sand dumps out of it. And they keep doing that, they keep bailing it, and then they pull the casing, then they'll weld another piece of casing on.
So you're basically digging the
Doing
wells,
it.
you're not just
Yeah.
jamming it in.
Yeah, they're pulling it down, but the outside casing is actually what they're locked onto. There's
Right, right.
another bigger one.
Hold it down.
Yeah, and the machine is
Makes
actually
sense.
sitting on that one too. And it
That
just
makes sense.
slices down in, so there's no hammering. It's a pretty cool thing to watch. The other thing that I liked about it, but that's all our wells have always been done that way. You get a good representation of what the material looks like every foot
As they're taking it, yeah.
as it goes down. So if you get a change in material at, 10 feet, 20
Yes,
feet,
please.
they record it,
I just need
Yeah.
one
And
of
then
them.
when they get way
Just need
down, then
one
they're
signature.
measuring
One?
the size of the
Doesn't
grains
matter.
of sand, and that's how they're sizing the screen holes. So it's pretty good. But I didn't see any of that when they hammered it.
Oh, and the hammer, these goes. Yeah.
I don't have it. in the-
So anything else on that?
No, that's it for that right now.
Update on water?
I have heard nothing,
Nothing?
Which means.
and I have heard
Which is
nothing
a
on
good
the new.
thing.
Right. I haven't heard anything on the new water source either.
How's the asset management grant?
So they've sent me a few requests for information. I've answered everything that I possibly could and sent it back to them. At some point, then they're gonna come in and they'll go over drawings and stuff and start getting into it.
But they're not waiting on anything from you then?
No,
I think
I
they've asked
tried
for
at the minute,
it.
I asked them and they sent me what they had, because I thought they had sent something, but I couldn't find it, so as soon as I got it, I answered and sent it all back.
Anything else that you want to bring up?
I think so.
Wayne, how's the pumping going? We getting close to where they'll be able to work on Manley Street?
Actually, Manley Street is now, as of today, it went offline.
Okay, I saw the machine out there.
Yeah, they actually had two of them, so, yeah, he was in a hurry, the machine cleared up, it was somewhere right here, and he wanted to get in, and I'm like, but, everybody's pretty much done sprinkling, or much less now.
Yeah, they should be
Yeah.
right now. What's our pumping right now?
So we're currently pumping. Daily. So currently, we have a couple of days in the 7s, but we're 5s and 6s.
Okay.
That's not bad.
Yep. And for our.
Wow, what happened to that
That's a
one
drop.
run line there? That was a
At
drop.
Manley Street?
So this is last year's pumping rate. This one here, this one here. This is this year's. It goes down to 0 because, the month hasn't, I haven't, as I fill in the data it goes. So you can see we're way above last year's.
Yeah.
What's the blue at the top? What year is that?
I believe
When we
that
had
was
the leak.
2018. That was the leak year. Because you can see we started off last year up at that and then came down once we fixed it.
I just heard from John Cruz, it was cut this year.
It was.
Yeah, he did cut the field.
All right, so I don't know how you force him to.
You just have to find out if he wants to extend or not.
All right.
Get him to, just keep leaving a message or send him a letter.
Well, if they cut it, they owe us some money then.
Right, he hasn't, I think she's left a couple of messages and he's not returning the call.
We'll send him a letter requesting money.
Yeah, there you go. I think you owe us some money. So you're gonna try to get hooked onto your Zoom, that's,
Well, I am, I'm just waiting for.
oh, okay.
Yeah, you gotta wait right for the start time, right?
Well, it's already started, he was supposed to log in, I told him 5:15 because I didn't know how fast we'd get through
Okay.
the initial. Sometimes it goes right through and sometimes it doesn't.
What's that, the Zoom doesn't go right through?
No, the beginnings of our meetings,
Oh.
if you guys don't like whatever the notes. Don't need this thing sticking in my face.
Well, thanks for sending that PFAS thing, Kerry.
You're welcome.
You can almost get us in there.
Yeah, that's all right, I can move over to the left here a little bit.
If you move over a little bit, Tom, you'll be in there.
That works.
All right, you gotta go this way.
You noticed that.
There you go.
Bad enough one.
So somewhere in that paperwork you have
Say that again?
the request signed,
What is
my
it?
vacation thing.
Oh,
I was in with those.
Alright. I just need more in to stick up, but it doesn't need to go in for 2 weeks anyways. Yep, you can just hang on to it.
Yeah, you don't wanna be sent somewhere it's not supposed to be, and
No.
deal with the bills.
Oh, and so station 1 is testing high for manganese. It's consistent now at about 0.6 and above.
Really?
So they're requiring us to do quarterly testing along with station 2 now. Station 2 is testing consistent about 2.3 or 0.23, not
I would say
0.63.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
And this
0.23.
one's 0.6?
Yep. And it
So
didn't
it's
at the
hot- it's-
start. It wasn't.
It's higher than Norman Avenue?
Yeah.
Really?
And then station 4 is low. They're all in the same cluster. It's,
Yeah, well, they always used to go more iron and manganese that up in Norman Avenue.
Yeah.
That had a lot of ferrous iron, and then this one had less,
yeah,
and it was pretty good. This one had like 0. This one was,
right,
but they didn't pump as much water either.
right.
The sand got tighter.
And station 1 didn't start out that way, and then it suddenly began to climb, and it stayed in the 0.6 range
you
now.
have to click in there, so
Oh,
I don't
where
know
is
if
it?
you just click in it.
No, I don't want him waiting too long, we'll hang up.
Hi, Jonathan, can you hear us? Let me see if I can. How come, I wonder if it will pass the, let me see. Okay, I lost the remote somewhere. There it is. Oh, so it's not passing the sound out.
We're
We're
just
having a
having a
volume
Hang on
problem.
a second, we're trying to.
We're trying to turn up the volume a little bit so we can hear you better.
I see it going up. It's not pass, usually it passes when you go,
It's all the way up here.
passes through, but it's not passing through to the TV.
Ask him to say something now.
Alright, can you give us a little testing? Can you just say something so we can see what we can hear? Alright, it didn't get any louder. I don't know how to change that. I don't think I can, and I don't have speakers
Yeah,
anywhere.
bring the computer as far as you can with the cord, and you just have to hear it from that.
Yeah, but then but that's got the camera in it. Then you're just gonna lose us.
Well, I wasn't expecting this.
That's all right. We'll just have to listen real close.
Yeah.
Is he losing us?
Kinda steady. Well, I can't see what he's. That phone never got plugged in.
Where?
What phone, what do you? Oh yeah, if you do that on your cell phone.
Yeah, if you All right. All right. When you see a thing for buying speakers, you. All right. Let me. So.
Put him on
Speaker. All right. There. All right. Now I got you on speaker.
That's better.
There we go. I shut my speaker off on my computer so I don't double hear things.
Yeah, now you can put the computer back there.
All right. There.
Okay, I guess we're all set now.
Technology.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, I just asked you to, the chairman and the town manager about the free sampling program, about a month or so back. And I guess, first of all, did you start from the very beginning, talk about PFAS, where it comes from, what's going on and all that, or just speak about the sampling program for the most part?
Probably about the sampling program.
Yeah, okay, well, the legislature gave us some money, to do a bunch of things, including this free sampling program. A couple other things that they gave us money for were to do a grant program for treatment, if you need treatment, and that, we only did one round, and we are thinking about doing another round. That's still not fully answered yet, but we may have another round of grants, so if you need treatment. And one advantage is if you did really need treatment, you would be eligible for those grants. They were $200,000 each. We also have money that was used to buy down SRF loans to get them to 0%. And so that, I'm not sure how long that money's going to last.
Yeah.
It may only be for a year. No one really told me how much money we have to do, how long that will probably last. We don't know until we get the applications in. But there are a lot of communities that are working on devising PFAS treatment for their systems.
So how is it typically treated?
Carbon.
All right.
What was it?
Carbon.
Carbon?
They'll take it out too.
Yeah.
I've been working, doing environmental work since about 1980, and I think that the trend is going to be that all water systems will eventually have carbon on them. Because the pharmaceuticals they're finding contaminants all the time, and the polishing step. And I think eventually that's going to be the way of the future. It's probably not while I'm still here, but I'm going to retire for I think maybe 10 years or so. There may be requirement to do that similar to disinfection type of thing.
Yeah.
So that, I would see that coming along in the future. But anyway, so what we're going to do with the program is that we first sample all your entry points and all your sources. So if an entry point did have some, you would know which sources were potentially affected. If you have any defects in the entry points, we will go back and take confirmation samples. So that round would be eligible to be grandfathered into your first round of required sampling. And I believe you're only 10,000
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah.
So
We're over 10,000?
No,
We're under 10,000.
we're under 8,000 people.
That's what he said.
Okay, well then you're not really required to sample, I think until
October of 21, I think.
Yeah, our money is only going to last at most until the end of the fiscal year, unless it gets expended, because we don't think we're going to spend it all, maybe not. I'm surprised every day that I read that has been pulled back, because of budget constraints, that they haven't decided to pull back the money that hasn't been expended yet. But apparently, we've been told we're going to have it at least until the end of the fiscal year. And all the money runs out, and we are using a full push on systems to get them to sample before the deadline. I'm trying to
Yeah.
And that would start right away, because that's gonna, and I don't think we'd be able to help you with that. I tried to do that with some water systems I've had my winter clips, that trying to, send money to our systems in the region that have actually go on board, trying to sample, get as much money for them as possible. That's been cut back a bit, so that may be that they are not gonna have the money to they think they may run out of money, before the end of the fiscal year. Any entry points that are over 20, and this was something new to me, I saw when the rates came out, immediately have to do in 30 days, what's called public education, which is pretty close to a tier 2 notice. That's a direct mailing to people. We were just having people put that on their website, before we had the regs, but that has been, going to the public education piece. If you're over 20, the sampling becomes monthly, on your sampling schedule.
Oh,
The reason for that is that the folks that do the high floor risk assessment told us that there are significant exposures to pregnant women, nursing mothers, and small children. That's really the very young children in one way, shape, or form can have significant effects in the 2-month exposure. So that's the reason why you're on monthly. And this is where the public notice can kind of be redundant. My understanding, and what you have to do, the FCL is based on a quarterly average of your 3 months.
Yeah.
So you would average your 3-monthly sample received for over 20. If you're over 20, say the first quarter that you're doing monthly, if you do have to do that, you have to do a tier 2 public notice, which is similar with the public of the, as you would with any other MCL violation, which would include mailing. Those public notices have to go out quarterly until you get the problem fixed and get out of the MCL. If you want to, if you kind of say, look, I know we're over 20, and it doesn't make any sense to take monthly samples, I've advocated, and I think I've gotten okay with this, that would be 1 sample per quarter. So there's no reason to sample if your first sample comes back at 60, you're going to think below 20 anyway. So if you're consistently, we have quite a few systems that are, we have some systems out there, quite a few, but that are in the 25 range, and that number isn't really bouncing that much. So, with every point in the 25 range. The systems that are around you, which you probably know about, Easton, Mansfield, Foxborough, who else? There's over 20.
they're over
We
20.
just got 70,000 in Bilbao, and one of their wells is over 20, just barely. I'd love to add 20. It's a question of how we do the math. But the systems, Easton is the one in worse shape, because they have their wells that they can't take offline. Mansfield, they have a notice on there that they have readjusted their system. It's the Cape Springs well field that they recommend with that, and that's one of their big producers, and they think they can save about 20. Foxborough has taken a well offline, and they have some treatment plants being constructed with clean sand that are offline, and those that have that online, so they can stay below 20 consistently. check level will be.
Okay.
What's being done to try to get this chemical out of the environment?
I have advocated before we get these regs that we work to ban the material from consumer products, so they have products to be used. And we do this whole testing to figure out what the abundance and what the concentration are options of those kind of stuff that they do with MCLs, what they do, with the UCMR. There is a lot of work being done to get out of the system. There is a negotiated agreement with the 5 major producers of this compound to not use the material and to basically clamp down or narrow the amount that they're producing. And I think that it comes to an outlet there in a few years they're not going to produce anymore. We still need produced outside this country, other places. So that is a problem. It's still in a lot of products that are still out there. I think that one of the reasons I was seeing septic systems is because it's in clothing. They found it's used in, I didn't realize it was very press clothing. It is used in clothing, it was used in clothing for water potency, as it was used in furniture and carpets for the same reason. And I think if people use the fancy steamer to clean their carpets, it's like if they flush down the toilet, that's causing problem too, a causation. It is an dental floss still, I believe. Applying dental floss is because it has PFAS in it. So it's pretty much everywhere. And I guess no one's really moving on dangerous stuff right now in the state. The states have done that.
Has any law firm started any class action suits?
Yes.
Has anybody started any class action suits against the companies using it to help pay for this?
Yeah, I work with the AG's office quite a bit, and I worked on a case, and we started talking about this years ago. And a lot of states are looking to do that. I don't know of any class actions. I know that the county of Barnstable is suing because they have to deal with the Barnstable County fire training area. I'm sure that some other states have probably started doing that. I know our AG's office looking at it. Similar to the MTG lawsuit that they did,
Yeah, we took part in the MBTE one, and we got about $1.5 million out of it. And I heard that Mansfield's, it's gonna cost them $13 million, what's in the paper?
It depends on what they have to build too. I think that let's see, Hyannis just finished their treatment plant for their well field. It's going to produce about 2.5 million gallons a day, something like that. That's 13 million, but that also treats for 1,4-dioxane, which is more costly. That's advanced oxidation with UV and peroxide agents. And then also you have to look at the cost of building, cost of the work and all that too. So I don't know how much Mansfield is working on. If they're looking at treatment across all their wells, maybe so. I think if they just
Well, for a small community, about 7,000 people, and with the virus and financial problems already for the communities and the people that live here, this is a bad time to be trying to spend $13 million or even half of that, even $6 million. I don't know where the money would even come from.
No, I clearly understand that. I mean, like I said, Easton is in tough shape. The new tri-town plant, the Braintree, Holbrook, Weirdo, is being retooled. They're building a new treatment plant for that. And, you know, that's going to be built into the treatment plant now. No, I fully understand. And, you know, this is kind of a luck of the draw thing, unfortunately. And the ranks are there. So,
Well, if we find any, we're definitely gonna have to take, if there's a class action suit, we're gonna have to take part in that, because I don't see our community paying for this. And it would also, if the companies using the product got a good lawsuit against them, they changed their attitude about using it. They'd find something else quick.
yeah, well, and unfortunately, some of the things that they're not using, that they're using now, are very, somewhat similar in chemistry. Hence, they have the same products, the same material similarities for what they do. And we're seeing a few of those pop up in the analysis. They do 17 compounds. And unfortunately, no one knows the toxicology of those compounds yet. So who knows? We may be just blocking down, just pushing thoughts further. But a lot of the products that, you know, some of them are very specialized, that they're having to use those new compounds like firefighting foams. And a lot of communities do have foam trucks, but the foam is two different types of firefighting foam. And this firefighting foam is really for liquefied oils and gasoline and stuff like that. So it does put a coating on it. They're making a lot of them do that, but it puts it out. And the other towns that I know that have foam use another type of foam, which is basically made out of materials at the bottom of your kitchen sink, underneath the kitchen sink, like household cleaners, detergents, and things like that. So, and then the type 2 foams are the ones that are a lot more expensive, they'll say more corrosive, need special equipment. The one that use foam has those.
You said even clothes have it, right?
Yeah.
So,
When I first heard about this stuff, probably about 15 years ago, I first heard about these compounds, and it was in microwave popcorn. That's what they use to keep the popcorn from sticking to the bag. So it's also used in a lot of food wrappers, you know, anything greasy things on there to keep them sticking, or cheese or something like that. And that's where a study found about 3 or 4 years ago that a lot of fast food joints were still using it. From the manufacturer of cotton and the like. I first heard about these things, and they said that it's amazing to keep microwave popcorn from sticking. And I started eating microwave popcorn. I was like, well, you that much anyway, microwave popcorn, if that's the airbox stuff. But yeah, so and they say that everybody pretty much has it in their blood. They can find it in the blood of polar bears.
Nice.
it's all like that. I can't believe we got kids wearing this stuff.
That's still in dental floss. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have everything. As far as the money for that initial sampling round, how long is that available? And does that pay for the full cost of the sampling and analysis for that first
The
round?
only thing you're going to pay for is the turn and the pipe. For the coolers.
Time and ice.
You cover all that, the shipping, the analysis, and the subsequent confirmation analysis that would need to be done if they need to be done.
so we pay for the lab work.
No.
I didn't catch that, sorry.
Yeah. Who pays for the lab work?
Let me put that. Okay, try that.
He asked who pays for the lab work?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
It doesn't cost us anything for that first round of samples and confirmations. We have to pick it up afterwards if we have to do additional.
Yeah, I was able to get a few rounds in to other people, but they took my wings to do that. If anybody gives me up money, I try to get other people, so. That's all my entire career. When I used to work in the wayside cleanup, I got more money into our region from the EPA on the removal action program the EPA had under Superfund than the rest of the region did combined. So I would just keep on pulling money into the region where I could, so.
So and how much money is left right now on the revolving fund?
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
So I have, yeah, as a matter of fact, I haven't communicated with the AG's office about a month, because one of my cases is all done now. So, I probably should communicate with them and kind of see where they are, if they are thinking about this.
Do you wanna discuss this later and take a vote on whether we're gonna take part?
I think I have enough information. I know where I'm gonna be wanting to go with it, so, yeah, unless,
How about you, Tony?
Yeah.
You wanna,
I'm all set.
you all set? So do I hear a motion to go along with the testing or not go?
yeah, I
along?
mean, I would move we take advantage of the program and get the sampling done with the funding, rather than try to wait until it might come up later on, funding might not be available, because we're gonna have to sample every source, and if we end up with only one source has to go forward down the road, you know, that's a bunch of money that we don't have to pay up front. And we're gonna have to do it eventually anyway.
You want to second that
Yeah,
motion?
I'll second.
Blending is absolutely allowed, to meet the MCL. So if you want to do, you have one that's like at, 25 and the others are at 10, you can just blend that water to keep it below the 20.
Okay.
Like, blend it?
Yeah, so I don't see a downside to doing the sampling and getting it out of the way. Plus, if people start seeing this in the newspaper,
I know.
they're gonna start asking what we're doing. At least we're finding out what the story is. I think we're better off doing that.
Yep.
Yeah, we do have, I've been communicating with most of the publicly owned systems. We have done this again in the area there, trying to get Bridgewater on board. They did have to sample one well, that was a replacement well, and I don't recall what that was. But, if you do a replacement well or a new source, it's part of the analysis that has to be done, or even that there's still a new source approval. We got the data from Brockton. In Brockton's water does come from the reservoir that's brought to the Avon line there. That the initial result came in at 16. Let's see, I haven't, where else? I know I'm working on the border, so the regional border. So we've got like Attleboro, North Attleboro, Plainville. These are people that we will go ahead with it. I haven't got all the results back yet. The Attleboro result came back, we didn't pass the QAQCs, we have to redo all that. Let me see where else. Down from West Bridgewater, Eastern West Bridgewater, Taunton's water comes down to Washington, so that's not that in the ground, that area. We did get a hit in the main, I think it was one of the main systems, Main Central or North Main, I forget, it was just over 20 in one of the wells, but they can blend. But that's just the initial work, we haven't done the confirmation sampling on that, so.
How about the water? How about the water that comes from the desalinization plant?
Aquarium?
Yeah.
Yeah, aquarium water, well, it should take it out. We did get a sample. Boston, when they took samples, they took one out of the interconnection there that they have, and that water was clean. That water does come right through you folks, so that's actually an advantage you may have too. I don't know if you have a
We're supposed to have a connection to them. They,
Okay.
as they dug up Turnpike Street and the administrative assistant was in charge of it, they never put the vault in with the meter in it. They kept promising that they were gonna, and it never happened. But the main goes right by the town line, and they owe it to us anyway, so.
Yeah, well, one thing that we could look at is, you know, I wear many hats, have worn many hats in the past at DEP too. I can try to look at the VIPA certificate that allows that to go through, and that may be part of mitigation that they promised that they would do is, you know, for mitigation to the town. And if that's in the section, it's called the section 61 finding, and they didn't do that, I would look towards, you know, pulling that out and see if we can get them to do that.
So a community could use that water to mix in to lower the numbers?
Yeah, I didn't catch that, sorry.
So if a community is connected to Aquarius, they could use some of that water to dilute, to lower the numbers?
To blend it.
Yeah, the problem being is it has to be at an entry point, because that's the point of compliance. So if your well field is close by, that's going to be kind of difficult for your treatment plant.
Yeah, it's not gonna, they already have a green can anyway, so it's probably gonna be okay.
Yeah, like that, if we could get it to blend. Do you have what you need to be able to apply for this?
Yeah,
You do.
I just
You know
let
what?
them know that we wanna go forward and then,
Right.
So we have a
Motion
motion,
and
and we have a second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I guess we're gonna go along with it.
Okay, if you could just shoot me an email, and, you know, we could just shoot me an email with that too.
Yep.
You know, that would be great. Like I said, we're going, you know, making sure, my boss is gonna make sure that I, you know, contact everybody knows the implications of it, you know, including the cost. The cost has gone up more significantly than I expected, on some of these things, and you know, the mailings, and I know mailing is just costly. I can't commit people in Boston, it is very costly to do a single mailing. You know, trying to tuck things into bills, but that doesn't seem to be going too well. A lot of people have never worked on the outside who work in Boston and don't understand what cost is. So, I appreciate your time, and thanks for listening.
Thank you
And
very
if you have
much.
any other questions, you have my email address, feel free to send them along, and I guess we'll get working on it. Wait.
Yep.
If you could just tell me how your system's set up, so I know that we can get all the entry points and the wells, so we know what's going to what.
alright, so I'll include that in the email when I send it to you. Alright,
I mean, I don't have access to everything in my office.
Yep.
I've been in the office only twice since project, and this is part of my social distancing. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to come near me.
yeah, no, that's fine, I'll let you know.
And keep us informed of any class action suits coming up
Oh, yeah.
for funding.
I'm sure it'll be in the front page of the newspaper. It won't be very quiet, you know.
Okay.
I do know, like I said, some other states have just already started doing that. Maybe New Hampshire, I'm not sure. But they know that this is not cheap, and it's costly, and it's, you know, it's going to affect a lot of people.
Yeah.
So hopefully, you know, you folks can either, like I said, I'm not going to be surprised if you have hits that don't want to, you know, say it's going to be totally clean, but hopefully there'll be workarounds that you can do. And the problem is that most of the people who are finding it without a source are floating in 2025 range.
Yeah.
And it's just over the MCL. Very few I'm seeing much over 30. So it seems that to be the issue. You know, it's right there in the MCL.
Alright,
So it's good for longevity of the carbon. And again, the carbon will remove a lot of other stuff that you may not know about in the water too, other pharmaceuticals and other things that in another 5 years that they'll be regulating again.
yeah.
So,
All right.
all right.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Yeah, bye.
All right.
Wait, let me ask you a question. On Manley Street, iron removal plant,
Yeah.
do we have a fourth?
There is a fourth tank there, nothing, it's not, was never plumbed in, but it's sitting there in place.
Right, and that one there was set up just for this?
Yeah.
We were gonna, if we could either expand and treat more water there,
Yeah.
with more flow, or we could do another type of treatment. That's why that tank was put in there, so that, if we come up with it on Manley Street,
That'll be it.
we already got the tank, we already got the setup, it just has to be, carbon has to be put in it, and has to be piped for it.
Yep.
So, so we're lucky there, but the other buildings,
So the other ones though,
We're not set up for it.
the blending might be the thing that saves us on the other ones.
Right,
They all
we did
come
talk
in.
about up the system blending.
Yeah.
so we'll have to see. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the hiring of water laborer positions.
Can we get a couple more chairs?
Yep. You
I've
wanna?
got one here, oh, I
We got
can drag
two
it
chairs,
down
yeah,
that
we
way.
got one there, we got one over there.
Denise, where have you been? You used to come see us all the time.
I miss you guys.
Yeah.
I get to watch you on TV now, though.
I still can't believe anybody watches us on TV.
So interesting.
Now you're gonna hide in the camera, or you want me to bring the
No,
chair
no.
up? I'll bring the chair up for you.
I have a bad shoulder.
I can drag it.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
get,
could you?
Where do you wanna be?
Right here.
You all set back there?
I'm all set.
Okay. We got anybody else here? Somebody else in the hall there, I thought.
Oh, thanks.
Is that a-
I don't know.
the mail truck just came.
Oh, is that what it was, Mail?
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just leave it.
So, what's this all about hiring, help for us though?
Well, we weren't gonna hire you help for you. What we're trying to do is streamline the process and make it more consistent through as many boards and commissions as we can. It's that simple. And the idea behind it is, okay, think about it. You place an ad for a water laborer. You would hope to get multiple applicants. Well, and let's say you get 30, 40 applicants, which I don't think you will.
No, we did.
Oh, did you? Okay, so, good example, you get 30 to 40 applicants. There are going to be some people who apply that you're not even going to consider. Whether it's lack of employment, lack of skills, whatever it might be. They're going to get weeded out immediately. That was the purpose of this. The idea is to get Linda involved as the HR director, go through those applications and weed out the ones that just are not going to make it to an interview, absolutely not going to make it. Now, I don't want to prejudge anyone, but I'll give you an example. Someone who just graduated from high school that says, well, I want to work for the water department. They have excellent benefits. They're going to pay well. I have no experience. And in a pile of 40, you take out those, 20 or whatever, that you're not even going to consider. And
See,
then
that's what I would have
let
wanted
me
to
finish,
keep.
please.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Once you go through that process, then the idea is that you have 3 people, whether it's one of the commissioners, you choose, Wayne, most likely, because the person will be reporting to him, and Linda, screen down those applications some more. Now, I think any one of you has the experience to go through these applications and choose who you think is the most qualified. And then from there, go through your interviews. You can't go in the back room and discuss the applicant. It has to be done in public. And I'll tell you right now, if I was employed somewhere, gainfully employed, with good pay, and had been there for a while, good benefits, but this job is attractive to me, I'm certainly not going to risk my existing job by being interviewed on television. You might as well go and tell your boss, listen, I'm not interviewing for jobs, I don't want to work here anymore. And even if you don't, if it gets around they're out there interviewing for a job, they're not going to put their job at risk like that. And you have to, if you're going to interview people, the three of you, then it needs to be televised.
Needs to be what?
It's a public meeting. It's an open meeting. As soon as 2 or more of you are doing it, it's a public meeting.
I thought any time an employee discipline or any time there was an employee was discussed, it had to be in a closed session.
There are certain criteria for discussions with an employee in executive session. Interviewing is not one of them.
Do the teachers, when they get hired, do they interview the teachers on TV?
I don't know what they do, Rick, but that is through the school committee.
Yeah,
They're
but
not,
the law would be the same.
I don't know what the teachers do. I'm not gonna make something up just to answer your
Yeah,
question.
but I mean,
Call Mark Broadwell and ask him.
You know, what we always did, we got the applicants in, the three of us went through them, and we picked out the ones that we wanted to interview, and then we interviewed them. And Wayne and the three of us interviewed them, and a couple times we didn't find anybody.
And I'm not
We haven't
saying,
found anybody. It's not the idea of finding somebody, just to find somebody. We gotta find somebody that can do the job, because they gotta be able to run an iron removal plant, and a lot of times you get other employees from other towns who have been let go. And it's a small industry, and we know those who have jumped from town to town and been let go. So other people would know that, but you know, we know those things. So I mean, we have to be careful of who we put into our plants.
and that's why when those applications are reviewed and they get, let's say
But
they,
why do we need somebody from the town hall who knows nothing about the water industry?
again, it starts out with you have 40 applications. Wayne says that happens. You get
When do
40
we have 40? Geez, last, lately.
No, I went through a couple of rounds of advertising already, and I'm not gonna tell you what I get, but a large percentage comes out of one institution that's in Bridgewater.
But we haven't really gotten that many.
No, I only did it twice because it just kept coming back the same. I was getting the same people each time. Different groups, but the same general makeup.
So when you went through those 30 or 40 applications, were there maybe 10 that right off the bat, you said, person, I just can't, at this particular point, hire someone with
Well,
no experience whatsoever?
I know, but at some point, if that's all I'm gonna keep seeing over and over again, then you gotta pick somebody and you gotta talk to them and get a feel for them.
Right, but what I'm saying is, out of the 30, 40 applications you received,
There are a few you can pull right out, but
One of the problems that we've always had is that the plant operator position should be paid more. And I talked to a number of people in other towns that I would have liked to have stolen from other towns. But they laughed at me because the pay is so low here compared to what they're making and running the plants. They said, why would I go over there? 'Cause I'd be taking a big cut in pay.
in the water industry, nobody's labeled laborer. It's unheard of. If you go to any other town, they're not called laborers. Because we do so much more. We're not cutting lawns and just plowing snow. We do all of that and so much more. It's
They're
more
more-
electrical
But we're
and stuff.
doing,
You're a technician.
we're
We're
dealing with the
technicians.
chemicals and we have to be careful who we have putting the chemicals in the water because it's on us.
So why
When-
haven't you
when-
changed the job description?
I have asked for years.
We have asked over the years and it's never been done. We've asked for it. And they said, no, we're not, you know, it is
Okay.
what it is.
So who have you
Why-
asked?
why-
I mean,
why
this
can't
is
we-
really a
we-
side
Yeah,
subject.
this is a side, but this is the first I've heard of that. Why can't we as the commissioners change the job description for
Because
the
it's
assistant?
up to the selectmen. It's up to the
So you
selectmen.
do it,
to
so
change
you do it so it's not a, not a union contract position. And then it's not under the selectmen, it's under us, the same as Wayne and Kerry.
Well, I don't think they, David, help me with this. I don't think they can necessarily create a new position
No, but see, then you're taking
That's
the guys out
not-
of the union.
that's
That
not
would be-
union.
Yeah.
So a handful of items to answer your questions. First of all, the principal hires the teacher. So it doesn't go to the school committee, it's all done. It's like you hiring Kerry, for example. You guys would just hire him. Well, actually, to use a better example, Wayne would hire Kerry if this was the school department. That's established by Mass General Law that the school committee, the whole school department is separate from the town. If you want to know more, I can give you more, but it's all established because when education reform passed in 1992, they vastly weakened the school committee because they didn't want politics involved. So the school committee only hires the superintendent. The superintendent hires all the principals without school committee approval, and the principals then hire all the staff, the way you would see it in the private sector and the rest of the world. On the town side, the Board of Selectmen have jurisdiction over collective bargaining employees only. Again, that's established in Mass General Law. So when you want to hire Wayne's position or Kerry's position, the selectmen have no jurisdiction, there's no involvement. This process was not to mean for the selectmen to still have jurisdiction as to who you hire. This process was laid out so that way we could have a screening committee made up of an HR person to make sure that the appropriate HR policies are being followed, and also the right and or wrong questions are not being asked. But if that screening committee is made up of 3 people, then 2 of them are from the water department, so you control that. Now, there's a couple of things that one thing I add to the policy, but one thing I would like to address from what Tom said at the previous meeting, is that the normal process is that, say 100 applications come in, say Rick is the chair, because that's what we've done in the past with the other boards, which was the assessors, is the chair, the principal assessor, in this case the superintendent, and the HR person. They would review 100% of the applications. That's what's in here. That way the water department controls how you move forward. However, one of the concerns that Tom had was he said, well, geez, I'd like to be, let's assume that Rick was on the committee, and you said in that meeting, you were like, hey, I'd like to see all the applications.
I want all 3 of them, all 3 to see all of
So let's just amend it, because there's no problem with it.
Right.
So if all the applications come in to Linda, say 100, just to make up a number, 100 applications come in, the screening committee should be named. You guys are going to vote as to who you want in the screening committee. I'm going to use Rick as the chair, I hope you guys don't mind. So you appoint Rick, you appoint Wayne, then what we would do is when the screening committee gets together, is that Linda will send you all the applications and send you all the applications. And we would ask, before the screening committee meets, is for the 2 of you to let Wayne know, I like these ones, I don't like these ones. If you can't communicate it to Rick, this would be an open meeting law violation.
Individually.
Yeah, we can't,
So-
we don't, we can't
Right,
talk.
well, the way it sounded originally, we weren't, like, we wouldn't see some of them.
So that's, but that, we're willing to make that change, because that wasn't put in the policy, because you can't put every single process into a policy. The idea from the selectmen was to make sure that we had a consistent hiring process throughout the entire town, of which they oversee, to make sure that we never had any long-term issues or any potential litigation problems. Just have a consistent hiring policy. That was it. Now let's just backfill. So if Tom in this board, see, when the assessors first did it, they want to see every application. So the Steve McCarthy and John Donahue did, and when they looked at 225, and like one of the honest to God examples was they said, I'm looking at cooks applying for this, it became a waste of their time. So they watered it down to what the first memo was that you saw from Linda. But that wasn't the actual original policy, and you guys haven't gone through it yet. So that's why I sent out what I sent. So to answer your question, I think that this would solve some of the problems. Is that you name a screening committee, in theory, Rick and Wayne and Linda's on it. All the applications come in, we send them off to Art and Tom. Art and Tom weigh in, you give Wayne all of your feedback. The screening committee then meets. I don't care, you guys have, say, 100 applications. You want to interview 3, you want to interview 80. I don't care. The selectmen don't care. Your job at that point is to pare it down to the 3 best candidates.
So the screening committee is gonna pare it down to 3,
Yeah,
or down to 8 if we want.
whatever, I mean.
I'm just wondering.
Whatever
I
the
mean,
number
it's-
is.
Whatever the number is.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, if you look at, if the screening committee wants to interview, historically, they've interviewed 10 to 12. That's what they've historically interviewed. So you get 100, you pare it down to a dozen, you interview a dozen, inevitably 1 or 2 drops out, and you come down to 3 finalists.
So who's interviewing?
It would be Wayne, Rick, and Linda under that hypothetical situation.
And then what?
Then after they pare it down to those 3, usually the policy then is, those 3 then come to me, and there's a recommendation from the screening committee where you will rank them. You will say, I want John Smith, I want Sally Smith, I want, Brenda. And then I look at, and I interview all 3. My number one concern, because I'm not worrying about qualifications, I'm not looking for any of that. My primary concern at that point is, are you the cousin of someone? Are you related to someone? Are you, all of that stuff to make sure we're not hiring someone not based on merit. That's my only focus. Now, in talking to Art said to me, I don't know, 10 days ago or so when I was sending out this, was that he said, you know what? I would like to see those 3 finalists. When I think you probably feel the same.
Yeah, right, because
Right?
then you really
So-
got one commissioner doing the hiring.
True. So what I do is I amended this, it's on page 2, where I said, you know what, then let's make this change. What we'll do is when the screening committee brings it down to say 3, I won't even look at them. Send it off to Art, send it off to you. If you guys like the ranking and you are happy, I'll interview and I'll wait 7 days before I even interview someone.
And this doesn't, one of the first things Denise said was streamlining. This does not seem like streamlining the hiring process. It does add quality to the, I know, because you have more oversight and HR considerations, but it's definitely not streamlined.
Tom, one second. The only reason we're not streamlining it is because we're making the changes to make sure the other 2 are comfortable. With
But I mean,
the
okay,
assessors,
that-
it eventually became streamlined because after the first 3 assessors went through the process, they're like, I don't need to be involved in this micro, and they just didn't want to be involved, so it got streamlined. But we're making these changes because we thought this would make it better for you. So yeah, it adds a couple of additional layers, but it builds in your ability to look at it. It allows, remember, all of those applications now are still done in private. Nobody knows who their names are in the public. I'm applying for the job, I'm not risking my current job. So until we get down to those 3 finalists and we come up with that one applicant, the one that the 3 of you say is number 1, you review it, you have no objection, you review it, you have no objection, then that applicant will come before you as a full board, open session, on camera, you'll interview them, you'll take a vote. We want John Smith. John Smith gets sent to the selectmen then ratify it. That's what the policy
So
is.
we only interview one candidate in an open meeting.
You would interview that one unless the screening committee said, because this happened with the assessors recently, unless the screening committee said, number 1 and number 2, we like both of them equally. We're not sure who we want to hire, and I interviewed them, and then one person dropped out because during my interview process, they then started to ask some more specific questions about benefits. And when we didn't have a specific benefit they were looking for, I reported back to the screening committee and said, what are you going to do? And they took the other person. So again, if there is 2 applicants, we do this, the only other department that's a little bit different is the police. The police are under Mass General Law Civil Service. We follow this policy, except they are required by law to interview 3 finalists for 1 position. Just because, again, civil service want to make sure there was no politics involved in hiring a police officer. So they know they're going to vote for you, and they're wasting your time and wasting your time. but we have to do it. And the police chief sits there after they've interviewed everyone and says, I want you, and they appoint you, and the other two are like, what the hell did I show up here for tonight? But we follow the law. We've taken that out of here because it's not fair to those other people. But look at, if Wayne and Rick feel very strongly that this top applicant and the second applicant, we really like both of them and we're not sure which, I don't care. My role in that is to make sure that neither one of them are getting hired because it's somebody's nephew or niece.
Well, and even at that point, those still would come to me and Tom to look at and to give our feedback back before.
Exactly.
So if one of us didn't like one of them for some reason,
Exactly.
that'd get registered before you dealt with that next
And
one.
that's why under this, which is in writing, is that the two of you would review it, and I don't even know the names at that point. It goes to you guys, so you're gonna review it, look at it, and then that way when you look at it, you say, wait a second, I know this is the cousin of so-and-so. Now, I wanna make one point very clear. If somebody is related to someone, but they are the best candidate, we should still hire that person. I just don't want us to be in the position of hiring someone only because they're related to someone. And everybody should know. That's okay. You know, we shouldn't hold someone back. But we want to make sure that that's not the primary reason they're getting hired.
Just to answer your question, Tom, the policy was written generally.
Pardon me?
The policy was written in a general manner. And the reason for that is because what should follow a policy is a procedure. If we made everything so tight in that policy, there would be no room for any exceptions along the way. You're asking for exceptions. They're reasonable exceptions. That's the procedure. And if that's the procedure you want to follow, that's fine. It becomes more complicated,
That's
but
okay.
we can make those exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. It just seemed to make sense to me that we'd narrow it down and then send it to HR to review and make sure there was no issues, but, I mean, it's fine. I mean, as long as we all get to see the applicants and have a say, you know, have one commissioner.
So at the beginning, we'd all see all the applications?
If that's what you want,
That's what
then
you want.
all of the applications can.
Because that's what we used to do. We used to say, who did you pick out? And he'd say what is, you know, the 5 or 6 in there, I have 5 or 6 that I have, 5 or 6. And a lot of times, they're all the same, 5 or 6 would all come up with the same people that we wanted to. Once in a while, there was one more in there. And those are the ones that we, you know, actually start interviewing.
The issue is, the only issue with that, Rick, is you can do that individually, you can't meet.
Yeah, we just send it through the
And-
way.
Well, if we
You know,
weren't on
unless
TV,
you're in
see, we used to
session.
do it one after another. They used to just come in, we used to schedule them, we used to just do it right here, and there was nobody here.
But I was
Unless you're-
concerned that
Unless
somebody,
you're in session.
somebody good might get weeded out early, you know, or somebody that looks really qualified may not, but we know has been a problem elsewhere. I mean, sometimes we know more of what's going on, that's all.
Yeah, so I think that we address all those concerns. I think, say 100 applications come in, you guys are gonna vote on your screening committee, 'cause it's gonna be controlled by the water department, 2 out of 3. And then I have no problem, when they come in, they'll get shipped to the other 2 candidates, to the other 2 commissioners, communicate with Wayne. Like Rick said, what'll happen is you're gonna pick 4, you're gonna pick 4, you're gonna pick 4, and it'll probably end up being 6 people. Because most of those 4 will be overlapped.
Right.
Right.
And you'll send it off to Wayne, and then Wayne and Rick and Linda will get together, and you guys will make decisions as to what you do from there. And then again, as Denise said, we added another layer, is the fact that even after that screening committee made up of Rick and Wayne, just so there's an extra level built in, we'll send you off those rankings, you can review it. If you have objections, you would communicate it to Wayne, because the screening committee should get back together at that point and say, hey, Tom knows this guy, we should not be hiring this guy. Art says, I know this gal, we shouldn't be hiring this gal. And the screening committee will re-rank, or the screening committee will say, you know what, we disagree. And then you guys would talk about it at that point. And remember, before the selectmen vote on the finalists, you guys do. So Tom, if you said, I don't want this person, and Rick still brings that person, you guys still get to debate it. You know, and then you just have to You figure out who buys out the beer to get the other vote.
This person you're looking for, they
That's
have
considered a
to
meeting.
come with.
I mean, we used to hire,
Yeah.
when we made our decision and we took a vote, we used to send them down to meet the selectmen, or to meet them, and we'd tell them to go downstairs and see the treasurer collector and, you know, give them the social security numbers and all that stuff, and they could find out what the benefits are and all that, because we wouldn't go over any of that. I mean, but that was all done after we were done interviewing the final person. You know, we'd send them down to the selectmen just to get their blessing, and that was pretty simple, you know, they just meet them for about 5 minutes but the decision was always ours because we're putting them into that treatment plant, and we're responsible for any mistakes they make. If they make a mistake, it's gonna be the TV cameras down here with a microphone in our face, not the selectman's face, or the administrator's face down there. They're not gonna be asking her any questions about how the you know, somebody got sick from the water.
Yeah, the decision is still
It's
yours.
gotta come right back on us.
It's still your decision. Whoever those 3 people are, you pick them. You've picked these 3 people, your screening committee, whether it's Tom and Wayne, or you and Wayne, or you and Wayne, or Art and Wayne, you're picking those 3 people. We're not choosing those 3 people. You're choosing them. David's just narrowing down from those 3 based on how you've ranked them, 1, 2, and 3, if there's anyone in there who may not qualify or does not want the job once they hear what the benefits are.
Because you've seen in the past other towns where they get in trouble with the guys making mistakes in the treatment plants, and all of a sudden the town's handing out bottled water
Yeah.
because they can't drink it. They got the cameras and the microphones in the face of the water commissioners, want to know how it happened.
That's exactly why when we came up with this policy, it was written very general. Because if the wrong person gets hired, it's still your fault.
Right. It's still
We've
not-
not changed any of that.
It's still our fault.
You still have that responsibility.
No, we
have
get to
not
share
taken
it
that away from you. So yes, you still have that responsibility. We would not take that away from you.
Okay, it's the same thing. I don't know specifically how to fight a fire, right? So we have Linda, the fire chief, and somebody else he designates. We've done it with highway, it's assistant in the DPW, along with Linda. With the assessors, I don't know anything, well, I don't know a lot about assessing, so we did it the same way. It's the same thing, so that way the person who has to work with them gets the person they are looking for. And all we're doing is making sure we have a consistent hiring policy so we don't run afoul of any future problems. And then the only other thing I want to address, because it was brought up earlier, before I get to that, you guys just, because I'll rewrite it so that way you have it. When the applications all come in, do we want to make sure that it can go to each commissioner, and that way the commissioner then refers back to the screening committee?
Well, all 4 of us will go.
Okay, so we'll put that in
That's the
there.
way we always did it.
Everybody gets it.
Everybody
You can't
gets one.
talk. It's not at the meeting, it's just
I know.
outside of the
Yeah,
meeting.
your
It goes back.
I'll spell it.
individual review.
Yeah, I'll spell it out, so I don't steer you guys into an open meeting law violation. I'll spell it out, and you'll just funnel it through whoever is on the committee that is not a commissioner. And again, who that person is your choice, not ours. Then to answer your other question, you do have the authority if you want to restructure your department. For example, when I first started here, you had a superintendent, was you, and you had an assistant superintendent. You didn't have an office manager. Then over a period of time, the commissioner said, let's get rid of the assistant superintendent and let's create an office manager. You guys did that because those are non-union employees. So if at this point, because the position that Wayne had told me, and I'm going back at least a year, that he said he was looking for, because he was looking for someone that had all the experience and the knowledge, that wasn't your typical labor CBA employee. I always assumed that that was going to be more of a non-union assistant to Wayne, which it sounds like you guys may need. I know there are costs, I know you may not be able to afford it, that's your decision, it's your money. But all I'm letting you know is that if you had to restructure That is within your purview, you just have to be able to afford it. And as long as you're not taking work away from the union, you can create another position to do whatever it is that you're envisioning them to do.
So the reason why we made the assistant superintendent to get the position out of the union, because we couldn't get the pay raise high enough for that person who was doing the job, because that person that is not just a secretary answering the phone and complaints. They're working on setting the rate, getting the bills out on time, taking the payments and getting them, you know, there's a lot to the.
It's more complex.
Yeah, it was a much bigger job, but we couldn't get another position into the contract. So we said, okay, then we'll take this position out of the contract so that we can get somebody who, because everybody's, I'm not doing that job for that money. And just like now, we're trying to hire iron removal plant operators. And right now, our guys are licensed, but I'm gonna tell you, they're not all plant operators, are they, Wayne?
No, it's a learning thing.
It's a learning thing, and you gotta love it.
Sure.
And if you don't love it, there's a lot of guys who are licensed, and they're qualified license-wise to go into the plant, but a lot of guys are scared to death of it because you can make a mistake. So we gotta find somebody, and you gotta pay them. You gotta entice them with the money that other towns are paying, so we can get these plant operators. Just like tonight, we're listening to this guy here. We're gonna have to probably build more treatment onto our system. It's just gonna get more and more complicated. So we need more qualified people, and you're not gonna get it paying peanuts.
Well, what I read in, I think it's Waterworks,
Yeah.
is where you advertise, they were speaking to the fact that the issue isn't not necessarily the money per se, it's the person having the skills and getting the licenses.
Right?
There's no school to go to where, 6 months later, you can walk out with a certificate in water.
It takes a lot of
So,
experience. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
time.
and-
Behind the
right?
steering wheel.
I mean, how long does it take for someone to achieve the
To pa-
licenses?
To pass through all the licenses, a couple of years.
Okay.
Well,
But it
took me-
requires a lot of at-home study. It's not, you're not just gonna go, there are classes, but you're not gonna go to the class and walk out of it and pass the test. You won't
Right.
even get a 50.
Right, so that's what they were explaining,
do you
because I
still
did
have
some
to-
research as to why
Sure.
there is such a shortage.
Do you still have to work so
qualified
long
water
under
people.
a lower license before you go for the next one?
Yep, and you have to start, like, I went and I got a high license. I had to go back and take all of the lower ones because they wouldn't let me do anything.
Yeah, because it took me 11 years to make all the steps. It took me 11 years to get up to the, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I had to have so many years of experience in the plant, in the system, with a 1 and then a 2. And a couple times I made my application, they said, no, you haven't been working long enough, you can take it next year. So it takes a long time to get up to the grades.
Are you requiring certain licenses for this position?
No, I'll take it. I cover what we need right now with the licenses we have.
Okay,
So people, there are people that take it. I recommend anybody I know always, it's a burgeoning industry. You can get 6 figures sitting in a filter treatment plant watching water pass through sand. Where else can you go and get that? But no, I recommend anybody, but requires mechanical, electrical, there's a lot of knowledge involved. It's to be a good person, to just sit there and call. We can't call electricians and instrumentation guys. They're not out on beck and call, so we have to do that on the fly ourselves.
so you're looking for someone who is pursuing a technical career
Right.
Right.
versus just a job.
Yeah.
And I did
So-
try,
Exactly.
I tried Southeastern Regional and I reached right out to the electrical teacher.
Yeah,
He sent me his kid. who didn't even go through the electrical program and flunked out of the HVAC program.
Remember, you're on camera.
Yeah, so
I
have you
understand, but
tried,
I'm really mad because both of my kids graduated from boats and they went on to college. And he did a disservice to every student he teaches.
so have you tried advertising in alternative sources besides waterworks, like Indeed or Monster, those other sources?
The next point, before I realized this, that you guys were even involved, that's where I was going to Monster. Because Indeed, maybe you have a higher level and they keep trying to sell you things, but I'm not going to say on camera what I kept getting, but
Okay, so you tried Monster?
I did not get to that far.
Okay, because maybe that person is out there, they're not looking in waterworks because they're not a water person. But maybe you can find someone with electrical skills, engineer skills, those types of skills that maybe wouldn't have even considered a water department because they didn't have that particular technical knowledge. And you may find someone who is interested in a technical career versus just a job who's willing to later on pursue those licenses.
Right, an HVAC person or an
Well,
electrical person.
they were predicting this was gonna happen. When I was retiring, they said there was so many guys that were leaving, about the time I was leaving, that they needed tons of plant operators and stuff to run these systems because they were all expanding so much and they needed so many more plant operators, you know.
So yeah, if I had to do
we're
it
in
for
an
you,
8-hour
maybe I'd be working.
We're in an 8-hour shift here, you know, and we're on call 24 hours a day. Some towns have to cover the plants 24 hours a day. So that, you know, they use a lot of water professionals.
I mean,
You
it's
know,
a
they
good
bother a
job.
lot.
It really is it's a good job with great benefits.
Yeah, oh, it is, but you have to love it.
Right.
If you don't love your job, you might as well forget it because you have to keep learning yourself. You have to just keep pushing yourself because everything's changing all the time. Everything's changing. Chemicals, treatment, everything's
It's
changing.
continuous learning.
So that's what we're looking for. Right now, Wayne needs help running the plants.
Right.
So we're looking for that type of person. We're not looking for somebody, we got plenty of people who go out, dig holes and fix mains and put hydrants in. But we're looking for that person that can do those things, but also, because we're a small town, they gotta do everything. They can't just sit in the plant and twiddle their thumbs, you know, when the water's flowing by and we got a leak out in the street, they gotta go out and fix the leak too. So we're looking for that person that's willing to do everything.
So you've advertised on Waterworks.
Yeah,
You have applicants.
I don't know if we got any through that.
So are you going to take the next step and try an alternative site
Well, I think
and
that-
just
well,
to
it's
see
not-
if you
I
get?
thought the understanding from what I read originally with
The town was gonna
was
do it.
progress was that Linda would be then doing the advertising
Okay.
Yeah,
for
right.
Indeed or whatever else you have available.
So she will, however, she will fine tune the job description with Wayne. She's not gonna post something without Wayne's permission. So she'll fine tune what Wayne is looking for, and then yes, then she will handle, making sure that she posts, receive the applications in, and then bring it to the screening committee, and we'll send them off to the other two as well.
So she'd hit things like Monster if she felt, and what, I know you said the Indeed is a different version than the Indeed we were using. And I
I'm
guess
hoping
any-
that they have a higher level,
All I
because
can
that's what
tell
they
you-
were always trying to sell us and.
We've had a lot of success with Indeed. Now, again, different position, but we've had a lot of success for two things. One is hiring people, and two is getting a lot of applicants. Again, it's a lot more work, but I'd rather sift through 200 than to sift through 4.
Sure.
So your experience with getting 30 or 40 by using
Yeah,
these
so-
alternative sites, you may be looking at 200.
But what I saw with Indeed was we were getting things from like California, and it's like they auto-populate and automatically send you a resume.
Or could that person be interested in relocating?
No, there were too many.
But at the end of the day, to
Fee.
answer your question, yes, Linda will handle the posting. Linda will get together with Wayne, make sure that what it says in there is the type of person he's looking for. Since this would be a union employee, make sure it matches up with what the union, the collective bargaining agreement says, and then we'll post. And what I would ask, because I think you want to hire the person yesterday, is
Yeah.
we would like to get to the position to be able to post. But if you guys, whether you do it tonight or your next meeting, it's just vote as to who would be on the screening committee. So as the applicants, when they all come in, she'll know, you know, you guys will have to call a meeting and then also send the other two all the application.
Well, you can get the applications down to Carrie and she could,
That's fine.
you know, we could stop by and pick them up.
Yeah,
That's what we usually do, take them home and read through them. We don't do it here, we read through them and we bring them back in with marked up with who our choices are, you know?
Yep, no,
That's not a
quite
problem.
frankly, that's the right way to do it, but I wasn't gonna volunteer Kerry the Jewish one.
We volunteer Carrie for everything.
But by all means, that's the right approach. And if you want to get a real pool of candidates, you normally want to advertise a minimum of 3 weeks, but really 4. And so I'd like to get it posted as quickly as possible. So if it's okay with you guys, I would have Linda reach out to Wayne tomorrow, finalize the job posting, and then start the process of posting.
Okay.
Sound reasonable?
I don't have a problem with that. We have been wanting to get this thing filled. You know, the sooner we get somebody in, the sooner we start getting them trained and up to speed.
And I'd like to see the selectmen consider making a position other than laborer for a plant operator. If even we only have one position, we gotta find somebody that Wayne does pretty much all the troubleshooting. If there's pretty simple for the guys to go in and add the chemicals and, you know, they know how many gallons of, you know, chemical they have to add. But when something doesn't work right and something's broken and something's got to be recalibrated, that's where you need somebody who is able to recalibrate the equipment to get it to inject the right amount of chemical and make sure it's right. And Wayne, and you know, he's trying to run things down here, but he's also running around the plants recalibrating things, where it would be nice to have that person that's being paid a little bit more money to take some of that off his shoulders of, you know, recalibrating the equipment and that. Because even though that our guys are licensed, they're not all good at calibration of the equipment.
You're talking about a non-union position?
No, I'd like to see it a union position, but I'd like to just see more money for that person that's gonna take more responsibility.
So I think when David explained that, you wanna explain that again?
Yep, so we would have
About
to,
what they need to do?
Would there have been anything stopping them,
Good.
from 2 foremans? So you'd have a treatment and a distribution.
so there is nothing stopping you from doing that. We would have to add it into the collective bargaining agreement. I'm sure the union would accept it in a heartbeat because obviously it's
Another
adding a
union
position.
job. Yeah,
But nothing comes free. Most likely the highway side then is gonna say we wanna have 2 foremans.
They do though, don't they?
Well, they had 2 in the short term because when we merged, we weren't
Right.
gonna strip it away. But then after one person retires or whatever, then we'll have to revisit it. It is not spelled out in the collective bargaining agreement. All it says is on the water department foreman and on the other side foreman. So you could have 2 foremen if you really wanted to. We would just put that into the collective bargaining agreement.
Well, the licenses fall under distribution and treatment, so
yeah, they are separate.
you could have one for.
Right, the state looks at them different. I have to have distinctly different backups to them. I can't use like Kenny as one and then Kenny on the other. Once your name's used, it's done.
2 separate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so currently to cover our licenses, I'm part of it because I'm in full. They all have to be in full, so our guys are aging out enough to get full, but they haven't reached it yet.
Are you primary on both?
I'm primary on one, no, on treatment.
You're primary on treatment, who's primary on distribution?
I believe it's Randy because he had the time, so he could become full.
So in order, if you want specific job duties, responsibilities, again, we're gonna go back to the hiring process. I understand collective bargaining and negotiating, but I don't understand what you're looking for. So we would need to have a job description. I shouldn't write it because I'll write it wrong. You guys are gonna have to write it, and in all fairness, you know, we're in the process of negotiating the CBA, and we've invited Wayne to be a part of it, and he's been too busy. Not his fault, but I reached out. So if I don't have somebody from the water department there, I don't have that level of expertise. I know Wayne has it. So if you want to add a position, I would ask Wayne, you'll have to write it, or you guys will have to write it as a board, and you'll have to send it to me, and then I'm probably gonna need to ask you to be there, Wayne, because when they ask questions, I can't adequately answer them.
Yeah.
You know?
We need to address that, I think, just to get somebody good in here to help run the plants.
And then, of course, it always comes down to, it's a matter of money and a budget. So,
You know, and I know what happens too with the union, as soon as one group gets to make another position, and they want to make another position for something else, but this is a case of just the treatment. It's a tough thing.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, you know, this is a little bit tough because we should be, with this here, we could have as a conversation in executive session because it falls under for collective bargaining strategy session. But truthfully, we're 3/4 of the way done negotiating the contract at this point. And I'd like to be able to finalize it so we can get it done, but ask the union as to whether or not, because you're not gonna be able to come up with a job description in 3 hours, right? It's gonna take some time, you're gonna have to come up with it, you're gonna have to approve it, you're gonna have to research, I mean, Linda can help you with this, research how much it should pay, what the actual responsibility is gonna be, the union then has to sign off on it. You know, this is gonna be a long, it'll take
Right.
You're thinking
months.
not in this CBA.
Right,
That's
but-
where you're going.
But what we could do, because I mean, you guys need to help.
That's the kind of person though we're looking for. We're gonna be looking for that type of person, so if we make the position later on, we can always move them up into that, you know what I mean?
So what I was gonna recommend is that we finalize hopefully our contract negotiations now and get it done. And then we ask the union, we would like to start to meet with you about the creation of this additional position to be added to the contract, because you could reopen the contract at that point to add it. And again, if somebody has an opportunity to move up and make more money, they usually have to say yes.
Right.
So, you know, I'd like us to kind of go that approach, because if I can get the contract done in, say, the next 60 days and 90 days, you'll never get this other position finalized in 60 and 90 days.
Let me ask you something, Wayne. Right now, do you have somebody, if you weren't here, that could step in and take over those plants?
I mean, they've all tried and they could put, I don't put myself on, everybody's replaceable. But you'd be using more, you'd be calling on the electrician or the instrumentation guy more. There are some things you just know how to do or you could be dead. You know, if you do plumbing and do a lousy job, you get wet. But if you do something electrical and you do it wrong, you can be dead.
Yeah.
It's not, gets funny. You have to trust somebody to do stuff.
And I get nervous with the chemicals, because sometimes they just don't do the math right. Very
that makes
important.
me feel
Yeah,
better.
you know,
What are
again,
you doing, parts per
we're
million?
on camera, watch what you say.
Well, there was a town that
So-
actually scalded their people with the caustic.
Yeah.
So why don't you get together with, I mean, I think we solved the immediate issue. Why don't you get together with David and talk about what you're looking for in a position and see if you can resolve that. You know, get an understanding between the two of you and try to move forward with that. But again, it comes down to the same thing, a budget,
Yeah, oh
town
yeah.
approval.
Well, I think we have approval for a position. Because we have 2 open positions, I believe, that were approved for. I don't think we have the money budgeted for the position that would be trying. I think it's gonna cost us more
Or
than
you'd
that.
have to take away one.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure we actually had 2 different openings approved.
And it's a matter of making sure from what you're saying, the position you want is someone that if Wayne's not here or on vacation, that person is able to walk into that treatment facility and do the same thing he would have been able to do, no
Yeah.
questions
See,
asked.
It's not just that.
Pretty
When
much.
Wayne, a lot of times is supposed to be doing something else administratively, and he's gotta go out there and start calibrating equipment, where he shouldn't have to do that. He should be able to have somebody that he can say, you know, you gotta go out to the iron removal plant and the Myox is broken down and it needs to, you know, the plates need to be replaced or whatever, and somebody else needs to be able to do that.
So, but I just want to make sure, because I don't want to get confused. The immediate person we're looking to hire for is a traditional CBA employee. It may be entry level. If you got lucky and they could be a foreman, all that stuff, we could plug
Right.
them in anywhere. But
Yeah.
right now, it is that person.
Yes.
And then the longer goal also is to get the person you're referring
Yes.
to, and then we can make a decision at that point, should it be a union or a non-union employee? If it is union, we'll have to reopen the contract. If it's not union, then you would figure out amongst yourself as to how you want to do that. And Art is correct, your laborer type position is budgeted, so you have no financial concerns there. And because you're already almost halfway through the year, you still have money left over in that line.
Yep.
Because budgeted for the whole year. You're not budgeted for the additional person.
Well, I think we went through one whole set of interviews there, we didn't find anybody, right?
No.
There was nobody.
No one for this current type of position or an advanced position?
Current or.
This-
The advanced one, we didn't actually go in at the interviews.
But again, it might be something where, you know, maybe for whatever reason, they're not looking on MassWorks. And maybe on an Indeed or a Monster or some alternative source, you might find someone.
So we'll find out.
Yeah.
It's worth a try.
So if it's okay with the board, we'll move forward with that. Wayne, I'll have Linda reach out to you so you guys can put
So
together
do
a
we
job
want to
description.
take a vote on using that policy as amended? So that it's official that we'll
Okay, you
do
wanna
that?
make a motion?
And you'll get that to us
Tomorrow.
tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going back to the office tonight to work on some things. If I can do it tonight, I'll do it tonight, if not, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we go by the hiring policy that is discussed and amended tonight as far as going forward with this.
We're all gonna get
We all get them
candidates to
and
start.
Could I suggest it's not an amended policy, it's an amended procedure? The
Well,
policy
if that's,
stays
if
as
that's,
it is.
okay, no, if that's the word, that's fine.
Thank you.
Change the
second.
policy to procedure.
You will,
Amended procedure.
All right, all in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
did you want to vote on your committee, your review committee, who will be a member of that or separate?
Well, I make a motion that Wayne's one of the ones on the review committee,
Yeah.
because he kind of has to be.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
You wanna be on that?
I'll do it if, I'd be happy to do it,
Yeah,
so.
okay,
So let's vote on Wayne first, because that's already on the floor.
okay. Yeah, that's a motion?
Yeah.
You made
I
the
second
motion? You second it?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Wayne,
I'll
you're on it.
I'll make a motion that Art be on the screening committee.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, have a good night. Good to see you all again.
Thank you for coming.
Hey, you're welcome.
Not as fun as it used to be.
No, it was so much more fun before. No one misses those days,
All easy
right?
questions.
All right, have a good night. Thank
You
you.
too. Thanks for
Thank
See you later.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night,
Thanks
guys.
for coming in.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Now, what else we got?
I think that was it, we covered everything before.
That's it, we covered everything.
Next meeting,
Next meeting is,
November 2nd.
okay? Everybody got that, November 2nd?
Yep,
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
I abstain.